Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of A Wild Ride. The Winds of Change with Brian and Amy.
Amy and Brian.
Yeah, that too. Guys, we have been away from recording for a few weeks. We have been out of the country in Costa Rica. We'll probably talk a little bit about that. But, we're just sharing the journey. Like, how is this life working? And what are we experiencing? What are the things we're coming up against? What are we learning? What are we picking up and letting go of?
Yes. And really coming from not necessarily different perspectives, but different places on this journey. So it's unique how we both experience where we're going and where we're at. And it's like Abba is no respecter of persons. So it doesn't matter what stage we're on, we're being led as we're supposed to be led. So it's just interesting. It's a privilege to be with this beautiful woman as we enjoy this ride together. So
I get to fix your collar on your shirt. There we go. See? We all need somebody.
Yes, we do.
Need a little help from our friends.
Just a little.
Yeah, we were just briefly, before we hit record, talking about what are we going to talk about? And the first thing that popped up in my mind is triggers. That seems to be such a word these last few years. And I think for good reason. Mm-hmm. I feel like I would be lying if I say, oh, triggers are only if you allow them, that kind of thing. But to me, triggers that come up in our life, it's kind of like where dross comes to the surface.
Yes.
So then Abba can skim that away, but something's not gonna come up until it comes up.
Right.
It comes up, stirs us up, and then we get to decide what we're gonna do with what comes up. And so Brian and I got married June 14th of 2025. It is now September something 7th.
7.
And so there have been triggers, definitely have been triggers.
Definitely.
On both parts. And what comes up for me when triggers hit there's an invitation in every trigger.
Yeah. So today's Sunday, and Patrick was on the UK Mirror Word study group, and he just mentioned, I think June had started the conversation with her share, but Patrick had mentioned that triggers don't necessarily have to be bad, right? They can be good. It just depends on our perspective of them. But sometimes in the middle, you want to react versus respond. Mm-hmm. And it's a little bit difficult to remember that, hey, these are supposed to be good when it's at the onset or, in the middle of it. So definitely interesting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. When the emotions come and there's literally a physiological response,
yes,
neurological response that happens. Tell yourself that, all the good things you can't literally in that moment, because we're taken back to something that we're either consciously or unconsciously aware of. And our body is reminding us that if this is not safe, if it's in that kind of negative space,
right,
that this isn't safe, this is what this means. Here's the belief you've attached to that situation, that emotion, that circumstance. And then we respond in usually just really familiar ways that we maybe our guardian part of our heart, that protector part, says this is what we need to do to survive. And there is no Christianity in that part of our body. There is no, not that there's any separation, but that part is responding in survival mode.
Right.
What do we have to do? And that's either shut down, run, react, or,
Vent.
Yeah.
And the thing
Fight.
is even though we're remembering how we responded in the past, so if we look at the tripart being and spirit, soul, body, and soul is still trying to protect us, which has been its role until it was subservient to spirit. And now spirit is supposed to be leading, but sometimes in the heat of the moment, the soul will rise up and say, here's what we did in the past. This is how we reacted. This is our winning strategy that we, developed way back when. to protect ourselves. And that's not necessarily the truth or reflecting the truth of who we are. And unfortunately, fortunately, whichever way you look at it, these things from the past can color our lens for the future. So we're experiencing an event, a fact in the now, but we respond based on how we felt and the facts of that action from the past. So it's definitely an interesting nuance, if you will, in this journey together, for sure.
Yeah. So what happened like this week? Can you think of one in particular where you were triggered or I was triggered?
So, we've kind of shared before that we're going through a lot of change rapidly. And I've been, in this journey for, 12, 13 years, of, complete reliance on Abba, that sort of thing. And Amy has, since being entwined with me, has begun to experience some of the things that has been my life over these past several decades. And I think I've mentioned it before, but the one regret that I would have if I had one is to invite her into this journey and to have her experience these things. So long story short, sometimes these experiences and these changes hit her at one time. And, we had an interesting 2 weeks in Costa Rica, and that was part of it. The first night there, it was one.
Oh, yeah, I was definitely triggered that night.
Yeah. It was just, it was an event. It was, anyway, just the environment and different things like that. It was strange. We got there late. It was just an interesting introduction to community life. And she had a moment.
So we're going to back up that, just to give you a little background. So we went to Costa Rica to visit an eco village. And this is a group that Brian's been participating in for some time with their online coaching, leadership, vision training, different things. There's some amazing people, amazing teachers with great business backgrounds and different things that are really giving Brian a framework for Eden Bridge, which is part of something that he has created. We will carry forward in different ways, whether that's community, that's the, regenerative agriculture, creative space, maybe like Airbnb type housing on land, things where people can have some income. It also generates different income for Eden Bridge, plus community of some type, whether that's in person, online, or a combination thereof. Okay, that's just a really quick recap of some of what he's doing. So we decided to take the 2 weeks, and we're invited to go and live at this eco village in Costa Rica, where these people are from, based out of. But they do many things, but this is where they're based out of and living. And so we're like, well, if we want to get an idea of what community could be by what he's been learning from so many different sources, and this has been a dream that God's put in his heart for 15 years. But let's go. Well, granted, we've done a lot of carnivore, and they're vegan. We knew all of this going into it. We knew that there were 40 to 50 people that would be there. There was a retreat we were gifted to come and be a part of that was taking place at that time. This is a Christian organization. They have very similar, but also some different, but that's okay. Like we all, right? We have Jesus as our core and our foundation, and the Trinity and the incarnation of Christ and the finished work of the cross and those kind of things. So, okay, yeah, let's just go. Yet, I'm stepping into this new. Like, this is not something that I've been like, this has been my dream for my whole life, but I'm open to this, and I love nature and getting out and doing these things. I knew it wasn't a cult. I was pretty sure it wasn't anything like that. But, people could perceive it as some of that, because we sometimes judge what we don't fully understand, right? Not even sometimes, people. Let's be honest. We just do at times. More than at times. Sometimes not consciously aware.
Right.
And so we went into this and we got there late at night and like hauling this suitcase up this hill and the dark
Steep
and
hill, like
steep
45-degree grade, it seemed like.
Yeah, and just dragging this up, coming into just a very, very different, very stark room of what we're like stepping into, the bugs, the things. I don't even mind that stuff, but my senses were on overload. And so getting in there that night, I triggered. I didn't consciously want to trigger, but it was also taking me back to when we had just spent a few weeks before in Brian's place in Georgia. And I knew that he was in like absolute construction zone. I had in my mind what I was going to be stepping into, and he took me to another level, I'll just say. And I was just like, oh my gosh, my life has been in one place and it is coming into something so incredibly different. And all the faith that I have, that I understand on who I am in Christ, the level of change in my life in one time, and you guys, this is just a tiny slice of it. It's overload, and I was triggered on, I'm not safe, I'm not being protected, I'm not being cared for, and I have to take care of myself, and it's up to me. Not my Father in heaven, not my husband. I have to take the reins. And so there was this belief that somehow that took me back to being little, and that is what was ruling in that moment and in that night. And there is no talking sense into that aspect of me in that moment. It literally has to be me, my tears. I need space, and only God is the one who can like get through to me in that moment. It was intense.
It was. And the thing is those feelings come out, right? So there's words, and in those moments, I have a choice. I can defend, I can get mad back, I can do all the things, and my go-to is silence for the most part. And that used to be a coping mechanism for me. I would withdraw from the world, I would numb out, I could fall asleep in the middle of an argument with my former spouse. That I was numb, but that's not me any longer. And that's something else that Amy's having to get used to is silence. Whether we're driving down the road, or whatever, I spend a lot of time in my head just thinking. And, since she is, well, let's finish this. So I had an opportunity to rebut, to anger, to withdraw in silence, but I just, we understand each other that sometimes she needs time to process, and it's not the time to even explain, really. Hey, we talked about this or whatever. That's not the time. This is just, be there for her, to hold her if she wants to, and usually she might not want to, and that's when I'm supposed to hold her even more. And I am still remembering that because it's difficult with rejection and different things like that I've experienced in my past. I think I told you guys, my mom abandoned me at 6 years old, and I thought I had dealt with it 2 years ago, April, at a retreat in Oklahoma, and then I thought I had dealt with it December in Amy's living room, and it still comes up a little bit, so I was still, healing part of it. But anyway, I said all that to say that, luckily I am so blessed because she communicates. So she'll tell me, Brian, I need to understand your silence. I'm not used to it. So she'll ask me. So as I am dreaming, thinking, observing, I share those things with her. Completely random observations, driving down through Houston and seeing abandoned parks. And I say, what about that? We could purchase that parking lot and make it a nice one again or whatever. But yeah, my mind is always going. And a lot of times I don't share it. So it's definitely a journey that we're learning each other a little bit more. But yeah, we definitely both have opportunities during these trigger moments to just honor and trust. So honor our spouse, honor the love of my life that he has gifted me with, and just trust that all things he will work together for our good. And it works that way, even though sometimes in the moment it may seem a little bit gloomy.
Yeah. You know, and I think that the whole thing, like, we're not getting on here and pretending like, oh, hey, we've got the solution to triggers. That's not it.
No.
It's that, you guys, this is life on life's terms, but yet, is it really on life's terms? Does it have to be on life's terms? What if we get to flip those tables and those sayings that these trite sayings that we don't realize there's a ton of power in?
Yes.
When we, you know, I can speak that, but my heart's not agreeing with it when I say it right now. The triggers have come, and I see them, you know, we're choosing to see them as an invitation, but maybe in our former life experiences, this is not about going back and micro dissecting the past in order to do better in the future,
Nope.
but using it as a stepping stone, using it as a sounding board to launch forward, you know, where when the triggers come up, that we're not afraid of them and avoid them like the plague.
Right. Or suppress them.
Yeah. But they will come up. They're coming up rapid because Brian and I are doing so many things that have us both out of our comfort zone, financially, logistically,
Relationally, with family,
yeah,
all sorts of stuff.
relationally, trade-wise, or work. If you know what you had identifying to a career path and your past, like literally, we're both stripped naked,
Yeah.
going, oh, yeah, you want to go on this ride with me too? Okay, here we go. Where are we going? No freaking idea.
Literally.
Literally, we have no freaking idea. And so with all of that, there has to be so much grace and go, this isn't about Brian being some hero rescuer into my life at this stage of my life, or vice versa.
No.
It's literally like God said, here is a life mate. And if you can set aside every construct that you have, idea of what that should look like, what marriage is,
Yes.
what loving is, and set those aside, and you'll freaking know when you pick it back up the old way, because they're tied with these triggers
Yep.
of these unspoken expectations or ideas, and then disappointment. And how long are you going to hold that? And can you are you willing to expose yourself to this other person fully and know that they're not the source of the trigger? It's really not about them. It's about your response, your understanding, and like, I feel like this is what it is. It's like who you really are, who I am for you and everything, who I've always been, whether you saw me, felt me, sensed me, even knew me in those kind of situations or not, and who I really am, so that you can shine the way you were created to, part of your destiny, and that it includes this other person. You as an individual, them as an individual, you collectively,
Yes.
and then you in a grander picture in this beautiful world that he's created, that we get to co-create with him. And don't think it's not about arriving.
No.
It's this continual journey of new paths and hills and valleys and forests and rainstorms and deserts and mountains and things that we can kind of look back a little over some time and go, wow, I freaking learned something. I'm growing. I'm not the same person. Maybe not where whatever ideal is, but I mean, on the scale of eternity, past and present and future, it just is like, this is a moment in time. It's just a moment. And we're picking up and letting go of things as we journey. Discovery.
Yeah,
the whole
for
time.
sure. It's also, I think it's a result of our yes. We gave really unrestricted yes to Abba. Do you want to choose door number one? Here's the vision I've given you. This is what it could look like. Or do you want the mystery of door number two, which is not open, which you don't know, but you know that it will be absolutely the best thing for you in accordance with my perfect will. Not that there's three levels of his will, right? But so that unrestricted yes causes a lot of these things to, not that he causes them, but they're used He capitalizes on them for our good. And it's not that, we're trying to change Amy or trying to change Brian. We are each unique expressions of Abba's individual personality or facets of his personality. And we're perfect where we're at. And we will be perfect when we progress. To Amy's point, we're remembering things. One of the distinctions that the group that Amy was sharing about in Costa Rica that shared is it was talking about a full cup, and it talks to the Zen master that lives on top of a mountain, and a disciple comes up and wants to know everything he knows and keeps rambling on about everything that he's done, everything he's doing. Meanwhile, the Zen master is making tea, and they sit down to tea, and the student's kind of frustrated. He's like, come all this way, tell you all these things, and you're not speaking anything. And the Zen master looks at him and says, it's hard to add to a cup that's already full. So when that distinction came up a few weeks ago, I didn't necessarily agree with it. Because the premise is you dump out everything that you think you know, and then you can be filled. So for me, I take the letter in Ephesians where Paul's talking about our awareness, that he prays for our awareness of the length, depth, height, and breadth of the love of Abba, that we will continue to realize that. And I don't think, to Amy's point, that's not a finite thing, because as our capacity to understand the depth, the breadth, the height, the width of the love of Abba is reached, in his graciousness, he expands our capacity, and then we understand more of the depth, width, height, and breadth. So that's where I came at it from. So anyway, anyway, it is, well, no, it's just, when I made that distinction, it was actually brought up last week during this Remember experience, which is, a 5-day retreat, self-help. A lot of good things came out, a lot of breakthroughs for people. But that was a point that was brought up in me being super spiritual or spiritual bypassing, and because I wouldn't ascribe to that. So anyway, it was a unique experience for sure.
For sure.
That segued in a whole different way.
It did. Well, no, that's okay. But yeah, sometimes you can look back on an experience and go, man, that was the best ever, and all the things that are very obvious. And then there's some you're like, Sometimes a lot of learning comes from not always the best experiences, I'll just say.
Right.
And you go, oh yeah, okay. I'm learning a lot about how I respond when things aren't always favorable, and how you choose to see things matters. And I don't know. I think I'll leave that.
Yeah. It really, it was a learning experience, and it, for us, it really helped us refine the vision of what this community that Abba's given us the vision to build will look like. And maybe community for community's sake isn't necessarily it. It's going to be more, anchored in regenerative agriculture, sustainability practice, regenerating the land, stewarding the land, and then, having people come in, different enterprises, cutting those enterprises out or whatever. But so I mean, there's different ways to do community. I don't think any one is right. They're right for certain people.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was a good experience. Met some amazing people. Saw some beautiful nature. Saw a lot of live parrots in the wild.
Lots of them.
It's funny. The first time we saw them, they were flying against the wind. So here are these beautiful, almost look like a phoenix, like from Harry Potter. Long, huge tails, making this horrible racket. But they were struggling flying. And something just came up, and I looked at Amy and I said, yeah, beauty doesn't necessarily mean efficiency. But then we experienced them, for several days after that. So it's beautiful just seeing them in the wild.
Okay, I just feel like I need to say this, even though it's kind of off subject, but because of what you just said, like noticing there were so many glorious birds in Costa Rica. And most of them, for what we're used to in the United States, are just stunning beauty. The colors, the bright colors, different size, shapes, everything. But like, so when Brian's mentioning those parrots, yeah, watching them and listening to them is not as sensory pleasing, but to see them is just awe-inspiring, right? And you've seen them in zoos or you see pictures in this, but it's something entirely different when they're in the freedom of their space, and to see the colors as they're flying and landing in the trees and things. And this morning, we're sitting out here on the patio, and we noticed a small egret, a white egret, Brian had noticed it flying in. We had some rain earlier this morning, and so it was flying in, and it was doing a little hunting on the grass in front of us. And he noticed right away how graceful it flew in, so gracefully. It's stalking its prey, walking through the puddle. So if you've seen the small egret, like a heron almost, and everything about them is graceful and beautiful, and the white. And I'm like, they are made for grace. Like they
Yes.
are a visual pleasantry for us as observers. And then you see certain kinds of birds, and they fight and they struggle and they're working hard. Then you see the eagle soaring, and the difference, like we can visually see this. So I got thinking when I was watching that egret, was humanity, like us, we can just kind of classify us all the same, and all the same, and we don't see, we'll just notice when somebody doesn't, like maybe somebody's not super eloquent speaker, but they're a graceful dancer or whatever, or the uniqueness, somebody's intellect is here, but they're a fumbling mess when it comes to walking and talking and da-da-da-da-da, or they write beautifully. But we notice this, and we focus on the flaw where we're not all the same, but we don't do that like to the birds or to nature. We're like, they're not made for that. This is what they're made for. One soars and one walks in beauty. And I don't understand, like, what, is that like something God's like, I've designed you guys to figure that out from the heart? That you think visually you all look the same because you walk on two legs, you have two arms for the most part, you have speak a language, and your physical bodies move in a certain direction, and you can conceptualize something. But you're not even remotely the same as the birds. Like, you guys are so much more distinct, you're so much more superior in essence, but it takes the heart, not the mind, to see the difference and appreciate that, and then bring that out as a facet of the diamond that is so precious, so beautiful, and to expand it, to see the capability that because they're in Christ, that like what you see and what you've experienced is just skimming the surface of that ability in that person. So how we can like bring that out in others and celebrate that. And I don't even know why I went in that direction, but I thought I would because it's our podcast and I can do that.
That's right. Well, and the thing is that the body wouldn't be the same without you, without us.
Yeah.
And so many people focus on, am I the toe, am I the eye, am I the ear? That's freaking irrelevant. You're part of the body, and your part is uniquely, individually designed to bring glory to Abba in your particular place in the body. So you don't have to figure it out. You just have to be, and just love who you are and who he created you to be, and love the fact that we're part of this amazing journey together. When you brought up the egret, I saw a female cardinal, beautiful song, but when she was flying from one corner to another, she would have to flap really hard and then soar a little bit and sink down and flap really hard. So her flight wasn't as effortless like the egret or the owl or the owls or the eagles or whatever. She has to work hard to fly straight. But she's got a beautiful song and the beautiful foliage, plumage of her feathers and stuff. So we're all just unique expressions, and it's just beautiful recognizing it and being it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we don't look at a cardinal and go, well, you don't look like that egret. Why are you red when she's white?
Pure white.
And it's like we celebrate it naturally in nature.
Yeah.
And he's like, you guys are far more awe-inspiring than nature. I mean, yes, there's beauty and there's uniqueness, but we are so much his handiwork. We are him. And it's like, oh my gosh, you guys.
Well, I mean, so if we're really fond of saying we mirror Yeshua, right? So we are mirror images of Yeshua. And as we no longer see individuals, we see the mirror image of Yeshua in them. Yet it's not just a face of Yeshua as we image him, right? As we think, it has a unique perspective, unique personality, designed exclusively that Abba is absolutely enthralled over and adores every one of us. So we're not looking at a poster. We're looking at a very unique expression of the very image of Abba. So anyway.
So good.
It is. Wow, that took a tangent.
In a good way. So hopefully you stayed tuned. You know what? This has been amazing just to share. We start with triggers and move into this place of our unique expression.
Yes.
And so a lot of those things, you know, we get to deal with. It's not a punishment. It's not anything. It's they're coming up in life. We're given opportunities not to avoid our triggers, not to isolate so much that we aren't triggered. We get to face them, knowing who's in us, who is with us, who is revealing all those amazing facets of ourselves. So that can come up and have that freedom to grow and expand, and that we can be like, yeah, I am this unique image of my dad.
Definitely.
Rather than be ruled by the things that are kind of, might be under the surface, might be way down there, whatever. They come up. We're not alone. It's not finished till the larger lady sings. I'm being politically correct,
Yes,
right?
you are.
Yeah. All right. Anything else?
Love you guys. Thanks for visiting.
Yeah, we're so glad you hopped on. We'll see you again soon. Thanks
Bye.
for tuning in. Bye.